Hi everyone. So today I wanted to go over terrain graphics for AOC. Now, if you've watched some of my previous videos, you may have noticed that I use custom terrains, and this video is going to be demonstrating how to make a terrain. And this is with respect to the original game, not the HD version. The first step is just go to the internet and just find a terrain texture that you like. So, for example, I'm going to be replacing the desert terrain, for example, there. So I'll go to the internet and type desert terrain seamless. And we can find images for that, and just, let's say, for example, I want this one. So I can save this image somewhere. And what I like to do next is go to Paint, and then see that this texture is indeed seamless. So if I go here, paste this in, you can tell that it's seamless, and that's good. That's what we need. So when that's taken care of, now if you look at the game, you can see that all terrain textures aren't made as a top-down view. It's sort of isometric. So there's an optional intermediate step that I like to go through, and that is rotating the terrain texture image into an isometric view. And for that, I use a software called Inventor. So this software isn't free. You can play around with trial versions or student software if you need to. But if not, this step is optional anyway. If you continue the texture with a top-down view, it'll still work. So if you're doing this, go to New, Standard, Part. I'm going to change this background to white, so I'll go to Tools, Colors, One Color Presentation. Okay, and I'll create a sketch somewhere on this 2D plane, go to wherever I saved that image, and I can finish the sketch. So you can notice here that this software sort of puts a dark tint on this terrain, and we can address that later, but we can use this for now. So go to Export as an image, and you want to export it as a bitmap. You can put it here into Pictures. Let's call it Desert. And then, so we can go to where we save this image, and we can edit this. So the first thing we do is get rid of this icon here, and then getting rid of this orange border here that was created. So the way I like to do that is I go to Sample Color, sample that orange, go to the Paint bucket, and fill in the background, and then go back to the white color and fill that in there. Okay, now the next step is to crop this image so that each corner touches the edge of the image borders there. So I can move this sort of over here, move this over here, move it there, and that's touching there, crop it to there, and to here as well. Okay, so now we need to resize this image into the aspect ratio, which is normal to the game. So that you can go to Resize here, and you're going to want to go to Pixels, uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio. And now, for all terrains in the game except farm terrains, the size of this is 979 by 481. So that's that, and we can save this then. And now if you want to make further edits to this image, like the brightness, for example, you can go to this other software called Pixelar. You can go here, open the image where you saved it, and you can play around with brightness, contrasts, whatever. So say I want this a bit brighter. Change the contrast a bit. Let's say we're fine with that for now. We can save this as a bitmap also. And when that's saved, we now need to convert the image into the color format of the game. And for that, you're going to need a utility called Turtle Pack. I will provide that link in the description. So if we go to the Turtle Pack, the first utility here you need to open is the SLP editor. And so this icon here says bitmap format conversion, and it will take the image we have, which is this desert terrain, and it will convert it into the AOC color palette. So let's figure out where we want to put that. Let's go just put on the desktop here for now. Hit start. So that's done. And our terrain is there. So now we need to convert this bitmap into an SLP file, which the game will use. So if we go here to the terrain cut joiner, we can open up the bitmap file that was created, that's on the desktop, and then we can save the SLP file somewhere also. Just call it desert for now. We can save that, start, and it generated an SLP for us, desert SLP. And now we need to import this SLP file into the game's terrain DRS file. So if we go back to the Turtle Pack, here we go to the DRS editor. So in the DRS editor, we can open the terrain file. So that's typically in the directory you see here, which is C program files, Microsoft Games, Age of Empires 2, data. Terrain DRS is here. Notice I made a copy of that, which is useful to have in case you ever want to revert back to the original terrains. So for now, let's just open that terrain DRS. And in here, you can see these individual SLP terrain graphics. Previews of those are at the right hand side here. And I said I wanted to replace desert, which is this one right here. So if I go to replace that file with the SLP that we have, you can see how that changed over there, the preview. So let's close the game for now, and we can save this DRS file. And if we go back to the game, go create scenario, Arabia, and you can see how it replaced the terrain with the graphics that we just created. That's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but you get the gist of the process. So just to recap, if you didn't want to go through the intermediate steps of rotating the original image into an isometric view, what you can do is you can just edit your original top-down image and resize it to 979 by 481. It might look a little weird in the game, but you won't have to worry about the terrain blending properly. If it is seamless in the top-down view, it'll still be seamless in the game, and you just continue the process from here. One more thing to note, if you use the Wololo Kingdoms mod, which I do, there are a couple terrain graphic files that aren't included in the original terrain DRS. So if you go back to Turtle Pack, where is this? DRS editor. You go to Age of Empires 2, Games, Wololo Kingdoms, Data, and that data is in game data x1p1.drs. Oh, I'm in the game, so I can't do that now. I can open that up, go to SLPs, and it's around the 1500 range. So here, those SLP files are there if you need to use them. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention here is that with respect to terrain modification, is that terrain replacements don't necessarily have to happen in the DRS. You can replace terrains specifically to custom maps. And the way you do that is using zip files. So let's go back into the data folder and let's replace the modified DRS with the original one so that we have standard terrains. Alright, that's done. So the way this works with zip files is that any SLP file within the zip file will replace the terrain in the game. So this used to have the name desert, but I replaced it with its SLP ID, which is 1510. So if I go to a zip tool such as this, I can take this the SLP file along with an RMS file, which this one is based off Arabia. I can add the files to an archive, make sure the extension is a zip, make sure the compression is store. You can call this whatever you want, but it has to have the prefix of zr@. We'll call this we'll call it that. Okay, wherever we saved that still has the extension of zip, so we'll change that extension to RMS. And let's go in the game and see what that did. So if we go here, first let's take a look at normal Arabia. See, since we replaced the terrains with standard terrains, it looks like that. And if we go to the ZR map we made, mod Arabia, we can see that the terrain has been modified specifically to that map. So that's about all I wanted to cover today. So thank you for watching, and I hope you've learned something.